I have been thinking about writing Loving Whiskey for quite some time. It's basically a compilation of just the dating life, what I went through. I was basically the single girlfriend of all of my friends, and I was a single girlfriend for quite some time.
Okay.
And then now there's a couple of other of my friends. They've recently went through divorces and stuff, so they're going through the whole dating life thing again, all over, starting all over from scratch, and it's completely different from when I was doing it back in the days.
Okay.
So it triggered that, it inspired all of that. So that's where I came up with the idea of doing the series because dating is hard. It's not easy. Whether you're a man or a woman, it's just not easy.
NL Publishing Service Academy proudly presents Listen Up, I Got a Story to Tell podcast with literary success consultant DK Walker. Sharing with you writing tips, marketing ideas, publishing information, and inspiring interviews for your author journey. So, without further ado, let's get right into it with DK Walker.
I'm DK Walker, and you're tuned in to Listen Up. I Got a Story to Tell podcast. Today, I am joined by Gracie Cooper, author of Loving Whiskey. Gracie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain. Can you believe that we are 6 months into the new year? Like, time is really flying, right?
It is. I can't believe it's already midsummer.
Right, right. And you're gonna look up and it's gonna be cold outside or some degree to that. And then we're talking about the holiday season, the Christmas variety. This time is really flying. I don't know where it's going to. Seems to me like I don't have enough time to do the things that I really want to do. It's like you up
Mhm.
work and then you like, oh my God, like it's time to go back to bed and repeat the cycle. But listeners getting tuned in to hear me talk about how time is really flying by. They came to talk about you and your book, Loving Whiskey. First question that I have for you, ma'am, is what inspired you to write Loving Whiskey?
I have been thinking about writing Loving Whiskey for quite some time. It's basically a compilation of just the dating life, what I went through. I was basically the single girlfriend of all of my friends, and I was a single girlfriend for quite some time.
Okay.
And then now there's a couple of other of my friends. They've recently went through divorces and stuff, so they're going through the whole dating life thing again, all over, starting all over from scratch, and it's completely different from when I was doing it back in the days.
Okay.
So it triggered that, it inspired all of that. So that's where I came up with the idea of doing the series because dating is hard. It's not easy. Whether you're a man or a woman, it's just not easy. It's not an easy process to go through.
Okay. I've been married. I've been out of the dating scene for quite some time. When I kid my wife, and they says truth isn't just one of the reasons that I remain married because I understand that the dating scene is horrific. I like if it wasn't bad out there, Nikki, I promise you. But
Mhm.
she knows I'm joking. So, what makes the dating scene so difficult? And then, what specifically inspired you about the rough dating scene to write?
Learn how to write faster, conquer writer's block, and tell a story your readers will love. In less than 1 month, writing only 3 pages daily, you can go from book idea to manuscript using the unfair writing advantage. Most authors take 8 months on average to write just one book. But in a fraction of that time, you will learn how to craft a book your readers will love and not be hunched over your laptop days on end to do so. Just go to www.theunfairwritingadvantage.com to see what has the self-publishing industry buzzing. Now back to the podcast.
Like looking for the one that's going to like hook you was, at least for me, it was the one. I wasn't the I wasn't the party girl. I wasn't the one that was always looking for like the party scenes, going to clubs and all that stuff. It just wasn't my thing.
Mm.
So for me, going out and doing not even, I didn't do, well, we didn't have the applications that are out there now when I was dating. I've been married for 13 years. So
Yes.
I thank you. So I've been out of the dating scene also for quite some time. But when I was going through it, it was always the awkward phase that you would go to a house party or go over to a dinner or something. And it was always like, you know what? I got someone I want to introduce you to. It was always that there's someone I want you to meet. Because you were always the single girlfriend out of the group.
Okay.
And it would always go from there. But it was the constant repeat small talk that you would always go to. How are you things? What do you do for a living? What's your favorite color? What do you like to do? Like all the little small talk stuff. And the very first scene of the book starts off with my main character, Willow. or Whiskey, they call her Whiskey. She's just over dating because the matchup that her friend tried to set her up on just did not work out, which was just so on point because it's a very familiar scene for me. So I just picked up from there. That's where it just inspired the book itself.
Okay, so it's pretty much life mirroring art. With that being said, how do you see yourself progressing as an author, being as though you use being single as your muse? And now that you've been married 13 years, what do you tap into? Because I understand that this is book one. I'm assuming there's two
Mhm.
more books to come. Am I
It is. Yeah.
right? So since you're married and you've been out of the dating scene for 13 years, what is now your inspiration to write? Or you still can draw off of those memories?
It's not just my memories, it's just accumulative stuff that either stories that my friends have told me. So I wouldn't say it's completely based off of true events. Obviously, I don't use everybody's deep, dark secrets or anything in my book,
Good, you should.
but I do get inspired by a lot of the stories that I get
Okay.
told. And I do interview a lot of the people. There's a lot of, I went to, I interviewed people that went through like a speed dating kind of thing.
Okay.
So I drew some inspiration from that, just from their stories. And I just I also pay attention to my surroundings. So there's a lot of times when either you go to the hair salon, you go get your nails done, you listen to stories and things. And I don't really take their specific details, but scenes do evolve from it.
Of course.
So that kind of inspires other ideas. And that gives me like a little idea to write another scene or something that comes from that. So I draw inspiration from that, from my surroundings and stuff. Um, and just from my friends, either from my experience or just from my friends or just, like I said, everybody else around me.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Next question. I had you fill out a questionnaire before we got on the podcast. And once again, thank you for joining us. It means the world to me. And you said that you're not a fan of marketing because you're an introvert. But before we got on, I did my due diligence and I went down the rabbit hole of your TikTok and you seem to be doing well. So what is it about marketing that makes you be like, this sucks?
So the videos, it's probably like the 20th take before I finally post it.
Okay.
Before I finally say, okay, you know what, just do it, just post it. But I'm a nervous wreck even right now. Doing this interview for me is hard because I don't normally like do public speaking, even though I force myself to do it just because I know that I have to. But doing if you look at the videos, I normally don't speak in the videos.
Okay.
I either do voiceovers or I'm mimicking somebody else's voice, or I'm usually silent and playing music in the background. But there's very little like my voice, my true voice in any of my videos.
Okay.
So I feel a little more comfortable when I do those type of videos versus me actually presenting myself, like actually speaking in the videos. So I haven't done many of those. And so it's hard for me. Like it's hard for me to step out of my comfort zone to actually speak in my videos and try to, I wouldn't say open up, but it's hard for me to actually just speak in general, especially with people that I don't know. And even though I want to get to know people and I want people to get to know me and specifically, but it is hard for me to do it. So I'm a complete introvert when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I am trying to step out of my comfort zone. I am trying to open up a little bit more, trying to post more videos, trying to interact a little bit more. I did one live, which was weird because I did a live and then all of a sudden people were asking me to battle and I didn't know what any of that was because I don't know what the battles are. So I was like,
Okay.
it's not what I'm not trying to battle anybody. So that was weird because I had people asking me to battle. I'm like, "No, I don't know what to do. I'm not doing that to battle. I just want to write. That's it. That's all I was doing." But it's hard. It's just hard for me to to open up to like actually just talk to people, especially people I don't know. That's always been hard for me to do.
Okay, so a couple things that if you don't mind, a bit of unsolicited advice. I don't know
Mhm.
how you celebrate, right? But as soon as you agreed to do the podcast, you should have celebrated because you moved out of your comfort zone. That's
Mhm.
first and foremost. You should celebrate again for actually doing the podcast, right? So
Right.
as soon as you get off air with me, I don't know if it's you might want to have a drink. I don't know if it's cake. I don't know exactly how it is that you want to celebrate a small win. So what happens is the success that you rightfully deserve because you wrote a book and now you have to have that success that comes with it. You're starting to attain that because you're out of your comfort zone. And we know success comes when you're uncomfortable. So
Mhm.
that's something that you can use to nudge yourself out of being an introvert, knowing that the more that I'm uncomfortable, the more that I'm closing in towards success. So that's
Mhm.
first and foremost. So you really got to give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate with the family, or just celebrate by yourself. And I would definitely be checking back in with you to make sure that you took the time out and you had that you celebrated that small win. What is the writing? I guess my next question from that point is, what is your writing process? So I understand that how you're inspired by the dating scene and currently from stories that surround you. But what is your writing process? How do you filter that information in and then transform that into a book?
So I am a pantser. I don't plot at all. I've never plotting to me is overwhelming. I did make it a goal for me this year to try to sit down and especially now that my series is growing. I already have book 2 with my editor and I'm working on book 3. So the more that I delve into the series, the smaller details that I need to make sure I include in the next and the following books remain the same. Not they have to remain the same. So yeah, I got to make sure that I keep all of those in line. So it helps to plot out a little bit more. I know that it would. And it also helps. I know that it helps with the writer's block, but I've never sat down to actually plot out any of my books. I literally just sit down and I just start writing. And normally what I do is I just put music on and honestly that whatever the music is what really inspires me to write out a scene.
Okay.
So I literally go through I listen to music all day long. That's usually what I have going. Whether I'm writing or not, music is always playing in the background. And the first thing I usually create is a playlist for my book. Whether I'm going to use that song and at the end of the book or not, it doesn't matter. But I usually create a playlist and I usually play that playlist. And that's what inspires me to go ahead and write my scenes throughout the chapter. So I usually have a playlist of 20, 25 songs. And then I either condense it because I end up with 22 chapters. So each chapter has a significant song that goes with it that inspired that chapter.
Okay.
Maybe 2 songs inspired a chapter, depending on whose point of view I'm writing, because I write in third party point of view. So it just depends on whose point of view whether it's her point of view or his point of view. There might be 2 songs, but it's music that really inspires me to write out the scenes. But complete pantser. It's not, there's no rhyme or reason on how the book gets driven. I know who my characters are because I
Mhm.
do develop that. I have a book that I physically have to see who my characters are. And usually it's either I find like a model on Pinterest or there's an actor or an actress or somebody who may have inspired the look or the demeanor or the way they sound. Maybe it's a mannerism of the way they acted or something that might trigger what that character would be.
Mm.
And I'll play off of that. But for the most part, and then I usually have a little like a book that I just put their picture so I can always just go back to say, okay, that's what that person looked like, either their smile, their eyes, or something. But that's what I use to inspire that character for me. And then I just move forward from there. I just go ahead and I just start writing from there.
Well, the technique that you use is common, like very common. Like I used to sit inside of a Starbucks and I would cut on Netflix and Netflix. I don't know if it's still there, right? But they
Mhm.
would have there's a concert on by Justin Timberlake, and I wrote at least 3 to 4 books off the one concert alone. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was just no matter where I was at, it was something about the whole he set up the music, the vibe, and I would just zone out. And like you, I would have an outline in my head and the music would just would I would make sure the music matched the outline that was in my head, and then from there, I would just create. The hardest thing for any person to do is to tell an author how to write, because you got to be creative under your own what works best for you. And once you find that, okay, cool, I can definitely go from there. How soon is book 2 going to be released?
So book 2 is with my editor. I should be getting back hopefully something by the beginning of August. I'm hoping to get something back, at least the first rounds of edits. And then I can go back with her and see how many I have to do. She did like the title and everything. So I know the title, it's fine. It's going to go with Forever Luna. That's the name of the title. So that part we're good. And I'm hoping to release it if everything goes well, hopefully by the end of the year. If not, it'll probably be my first book got released in January. This will probably be around maybe the January date. If there's a later date, then I'll probably have to let you guys know that as well. But I'm hoping that it'll be sometime around that time frame.
Okay.
There's fall elements, so I was hoping for a fall release date, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll get released by fall.
So what could be possibly some of the things that would stop it from being a fall release date?
Just depending if the press company has room for release, because I have to rely on them to see if they have the capacity to do the releases. Since they're a smaller press company, they're not like the big five publishers, the big publishers. They're a smaller publishing company.
Okay.
They do have, and they do have a lot of authors because they do have a lot of authors under them. They have a certain amount of authors that they release. They schedule out release dates ahead of time, and it goes by when the authors submit their books. So if I submitted mine, but there might be several authors that submitted their books before me, which apparently that's what the case is. They may have already scheduled out what their published dates or their release dates are. So now I have to wait in queue to see when my book can be released. So if there's like a holiday book, that usually bumps up because they want to make sure that it gets released by the
Right.
holiday, or if they have some sort of anthology that they're trying to promote within the company itself, they'll usually do those anthologies first and any of those kind of things. But so I'm hoping that maybe with the fall element, it might get released a little earlier. If not, I told them it's fine if it gets released a little bit later.
Not a
It's
problem.
okay.
So, what made you go with being signed versus self-publishing, and you wouldn't have those obstacles, and you can release when you want to?
I was very green with the whole process. So to me, I didn't know where to start when it came to self-publishing, like at all. I didn't know where to go, how to start, what to even do. I had no idea, no concept of where to go at all. And this was before I even discovered TikTok because I didn't even know anything about TikTok. I learned a lot since I've gotten on TikTok.
Okay.
I didn't know about book talk. I didn't know about any of it before. So it was all new to me. And within the last year, because it'll be a year now in this month that I've been a year on TikTok, I've learned so much just from listening and watching the book talk and paying attention to content creators and other authors and the difference between indie publishing and, traditional publishing,
Mhm.
just the lingo itself. Like I didn't know any of that. So I took some classes. I was taking classes, like writing classes on how to improve my method of writing. And everybody was like, you have to plot, you have to plot. And I was like, I couldn't get it. It was frustrating me because it just wasn't coming out natural to me
Right.
to plot. So it was taking me longer to write versus the way that I wanted to write, which was just write, just to sit down and write. And I couldn't get it down right. So it took me longer to finish the book. My very first book, which was before Loving Whiskey, I still have it. It's 80% done and I haven't finished it yet because they wanted me to plot. And I just got lost in the plotting. So I never finished it. So I did Loving Whiskey on my own and I just sat down and I wrote and I finished it the way that I wanted to write. So I was able to do it my way.
As well you
But
should. I said, "As well you should."
yeah. So I was like, okay, if I could do it that way, then I'm just going to stay that way. And then I realized when I joined filing TikTok, I learned the difference. There's a pantser and there's a plotter. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'm a pantser. So I was like, okay. So there is no wrong way of doing it.
Writing your manuscript has been hard enough, so let NL Publishing Service Academy make self-publishing your book easy as possible. From beautifully designed full and ebook covers to uniquely done typesetting and formatting, our goal is to professionally enhance your manuscripts and book covers to give your readers the best reading experience possible. Need marketing tips, tactics, and strategies? We can help you with that. How about branding and broadening the reach of your author platform? Yep, we can help you with that too. So no matter what your self-publishing needs are, NL Publishing Service Academy has you covered. Just head over to www.nlpublishingservices.com for whatever your self-publishing needs are. And now back to the podcast.
It's
Um,
absolutely not.
yeah, I ended up sending out again, taking the writing courses. They show you how to do query letters and how to submit to publishers and or literary agents to get to a publisher if the publisher doesn't accept writers directly. And I thought that was the way I had to go because again, I did not know how to self-publish. I didn't even know where to start. And I learned of vanity presses and I was told stay away from vanity presses.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, so stay away from vanity presses. And so I learned the difference between them. But the whole self-publishing thing to me was like, I did not know where to go, like how to begin the concept of self-publishing. So I went traditional publishing instead.
Okay.
And there was several no's before I finally got two yeses.
Well,
There was
well,
several no's.
congratulations for being persistent. If you don't mind me asking, how long is your contract with your publishing company?
With book one, they gave me a 5-year contract with book one. And then I had to see now with book two, I believe it's the same thing. I think they give you a 5-year contract with them.
So it's on a book by book basis is what you're telling me? Okay, with that being said, do you think that you have enough knowledge now to self-publish?
I think I do. I think I understand the process more, where I feel more comfortable now that I know how I can get up through with self-publishing.
Okay.
Um, and I thought about doing, I think since I already have the series with my press company, I'd probably stick the series with the press company, but I do have some standalones that I personally want to write. I have a standalone that I'm in the middle of jotting down some ideas,
Okay.
and I'm playing with the idea of doing self-publishing on that one
Okay.
just to get a feel for the difference.
Yeah. Quick question, and you don't have to answer this, by the way. Who owns the rights to your book, Benzo? You signed to that publishing company, and
I
if
do.
you own the rights, okay, cool, cool, cool. Because if not, then if they did own the rights, make sure that at the time period that those rights revert back to you. A bit of unsolicited advice: self-publishing is not hard. First of all, writing is not hard. We actually learn how to write a book, and I've said this on so many podcasts. People probably get tired of my doggone regular listeners probably can get ready to quote me right now, but we learned to write a book in school.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, we learned to write a book in elementary school. It's nothing more than a paragraph. That's all. Technically, when you break a book down, all a book is a paragraph. So you have the beginning of a book, which you have the beginning of the paragraph, pardon me. You have the middle of a paragraph, you have the ending of a paragraph. Those are the three main staples of a book. You have an enticing opening that's going to captivate and engulf the reader into your story. You have the middle of the paragraph, like the middle of a book, that's going to keep their attention, right? And then you have the end of a paragraph, like the end of a book, that's going to top any loose ends. So my clients, I try to get them to have that mindset, not to be overwhelmed when it comes to writing a book. And like you discovered or you learned that there's no right or wrong way in writing a book, whether it be pantser or plantser or a hybrid of the two. There's no right or wrong. However you get to the finish line with your story is how you get there. The goal is to tell an interesting story. How you get there, that's all on the author. Just as the more that you're comfortable, the easier it is to get the story out of you. So I'm not sure what your publishing efforts going to be moving forward, but self-publishing definitely has its benefits. It definitely has its drawbacks, but things fall on you. Like you have to you cover editor, marketing, all that falls on you. But you're doing a great job at marketing, in spite of the fact that you're an introvert, right? If you need any help, you can just reach out and I have no problem helping you cross that hurdle. After your
Appreciate
third
that.
book in the Loving series, what do you see yourself going to as an author? Or do you see yourself actually getting out some of those standalone books during Loving Whiskey or after the fact?
No, during, I believe I want to do them during Living Whiskey. So I'm going to still continue doing the Living Whiskey series, like the Martini Girl series. But I
Okay.
want, in between, I still want to publish some of my standalones. So they're rom coms. I write all of them are rom coms, and I think that's just my niche. That's where I fit in.
Okay.
But like my very first book that I didn't finish that I want to go back to. It's a paranormal, but it's a paranormal rom com. So I want to go back and I want to finish it because that's the one that was, you got to plot. And it's the one I just never finished it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to rework it my way so I can finish it. And it's been in my head for quite some time to say, just go back and finish it because you can do it. And I want to go back and do that so I can with that one, I would like to see if I go the self-publishing route with that one. I love my press company. Don't get me wrong. They've been absolutely great, especially with me being green. They've helped me out so much. Like they've been wonderful. I can't absolutely at all complain because they really are great with me. And the editor that I'm assigned to and work with, she's fantastic. Like she helps me out a lot. She answers all my questions. So it's been really great with their hand holding, especially with me, because like I said, it was absolutely green throughout this whole process. But I do think that I would like to have a take on a self-published book as well, just so like I said, that way I can see if I can do both to have that self-publishing under my belt as well, just to be an indie or to have that indie publishing as well, just to see what the difference is. You do have a little bit more freedom because you can choose your own, like not that I can't choose my covers with my publisher because I can, but I have to go with I go with certain artists, I go with certain people that they work with.
Mhm.
Whereas a self-publisher, I can just choose who I want and I can select my own group. So I would like to be able to have that little bit more of a freedom to do that. The people that I do work with on the press side, I have the cover that I have for my book. I absolutely love it. The artist that did my cover adore it, and I would love to work with her again. She was fantastic. But I'm hoping that I get to select her again so she can do the second book and all of the series. So that way they're all in unison, they all look the same, or they at least look like they're in the series together. But she was fantastic. So I would love to be able to work with her again. But I do where you look at everybody else the independent authors, when they do theirs, like the sprayed edges and they have the all the other little intricate stuff that they do with their books. It's nice when they do that because I see that and I'm like, I want to buy their book just for that because their books are beautiful when you see that stuff. But those are things that they can do because they're independent authors. They can do that stuff on their books, where on my book, I can't do that with my specific book because unless I speak with my press company, I got to see if there's a way I can do that with theirs. But that's the only downside to that part. You just got to
Yeah.
rely on them a little bit more.
Keep in mind that all of us, when I say all of us, I'm not excluding anybody. All of us was green. It was a learning process for all of us and whatnot. You got to start somewhere, right? And from listening to you and doing my due diligence and whatnot, you're a fast learner. And the only way to actually know that where you're going at in your self-publishing journey or your author journey, pardon me, period, is to apply what you know. That's just trial and error. Nobody gets it the first book, second book, third book, fourth book. I promise you, it's always a shooting star when an author, whether they're indie or traditionally published, write one book and that book takes off and sells millions. Yeah, it's like Halley's Comet, right? It's a
Right.
process, and you have to trust that process to know that as long as I'm consistent, I too one day will attain my Halley's Comet. But the secret sauce, that's not so much of a secret, just consistency. And as long as you like, I want to put out, I don't know how many numbers a book that you want to put out per year, but as long as you stay consistent to that number, you'll see success follow that soon after. Because what happens is you'll start to attract your tribe. People like, I love her book. When is her next book coming out? Right. And the more that you can produce book, the bigger your tribe grows. Because nothing beats marketing when it comes to readers than word of mouth. Like once they find a great author that they love and they adore their work, they're going to tell their readers, their reader friends, and their non-reader friends and strangers, to say the least. Before I let you go, two last questions. What has been your biggest takeaway on your author journey thus far?
I think reading outside of my genre, it's been like actually reading out because I've always written specifically like in the romance era where I've always written is out in romance. So I stepped outside of that a little bit just to individually grow. And I started reading outside of my genre a bit more. And just when outside of my genre, not just in rom-com, like in romance, just out of romance in general. So I started reading a little bit more on the thriller. I started reading more suspense so that I can grow as a reader and also as an author.
Okay.
And that to me has been a huge takeaway when I've discovered some amazing authors outside of my genre, which has been great. And also content creators who actually promote suspense authors and thriller authors. And I didn't think I would enjoy reading a suspense book or a thriller book. And I do. I actually love it. And some of them really freak me out, but I absolutely love reading them now. And I think that's helped me grow. Even now as an author, I'm like, oh, maybe I can put something that's a little more scary in my book. I'm like, no, I'm writing rom-com. I can't put something scary in my book right now. So I have to think. So it's making me think of maybe writing, I don't know, not a thriller itself, because I don't think I can pull off a thriller right now, but it's made me think of writing something a little bit more on the suspense side, maybe more of a suspense romance. So it's making me grow as an author on that side, on that aspect. So I think that's what's helped me a lot. Or what's made me grow more is stepping outside of my genre and reading out other genres. And reading fantasy. I've been reading more fantasy too. And I didn't think I was going to, not that I've read some fantasies before, but just reading fantasies in general. And I love it because I love the world building that goes into fantasy. It's amazing what some of these authors do with the world building. I didn't think I would be able to get it, but it's just like and my imagination goes wild. So when they describe it, it might not be what they're describing, but when I see it in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this thing I would like to live here. Like it's fantastic what these people
Okay.
have in their books. So that's helped me. That's helped me grow a lot.
Okay. Last question before I let you go. Where do you see your author journey taking you?
Besides having a cabin in Maine, so I can spend it.
But we laugh, right? We laugh, but there's self-published authors that earn comfortable living being self-published. So it's doable. If that's
Yeah,
what you yourself,
I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there in the world. I want a little cabin in the Maine. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big. A little cabin out in Maine somewhere. I would love that. I would like, besides continuing to write, my youngest son, he writes his little comic books. He
Mhm.
draws his own little comic books. And he told me the other day that he would like to write one with me. So I think I would
You're about
love
to
to
make
be
me
able
cry. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm emotional. It's all right. I have no problem crying. Yeah, that's
I would love to be able
beautiful.
to write a book with him. Yeah,
Oh, that is.
yeah.
I got a 13-year-old. She writes, and I made that suggestion. She bit my head off.
He's 9 and w he writes his own little comic books, like, he draws and everything. He calls them the stick man figures because he does stick man drawings, but he does this whole stick man comic book, and he's got 10 of them. Like, he's got 10 little things, and I buy him sketchbooks and stuff, and he just draws in them, and he's got a collection of stick man comic books that he draws,
Okay.
and it has a potato dragon, and he's got this wild imagination, and he wants me to write with him. And I told him that I would love to be able to write a book with him.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
If I don't do anything else, well, we're going to stay in contact because I do want to help you on your self-publishing journey. But when the day comes that you and your son write that book, I want an autograph copy for two reasons. Because I believe in supporting. No, I believe in supporting. That's the first reason. The second reason is I want to show my daughter that turned me down and told me no, that's okay. I know somebody that actually their son, which is younger than you, like appreciate what their parent does. Like I just want to put that in her face. I know that seems evil, but it's all right. I'm just being honest. It's not a problem. Gracie, I appreciate you joining me today. You, like I said, once you get off air with me, once we kill this interview, go celebrate. I don't care
Thank
what
you.
you got to go do, please, because the more you celebrate, like you can look back and say, I did that. Anytime your
Mhm.
book gets released, I did that. Anytime I did something out of my comfort zone, I did that. And in doing so, it makes it easier for you to do these things. Look, I'm DK Walker. You have been tuned into Listen Up. I got a story to tell podcast. You can be anywhere in the world. You're joining your boy. Man, thank you, thank you. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or on iTunes, leave me a review. Leave me an honest review. If you're watching me on YouTube, subscribe to my page and leave me a review for the podcast there as well. I'll catch you good folks next week. Peace.
This episode of Listen Up, I Got a Story to Tell podcast has ended. But please be sure to subscribe for more literary strategies and tactics to help you create the profitable, successful author career you've always wanted. And don't forget to rate and leave a review so we can continue to bring you the best author and book-related content. See you on the next episode.